where his character sabotaged the on-one-air performance of his rival, Evan. I like, of the da-cha-cha. It's hard to imagine a greater shame for a TV presenter. In real life, of course, such embarrassing moments don't occur often, and people who are able to control the fear will of others simply don't exist. However, TV correspondents frequently end up in hilarious situations, which can later turn into a real meme across social media. Awkward falls, passers-by acting strangely, and attacks of wild animals. You'll see all of these in our video. In the meantime, don't forget to click on the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on all the fun. Let's get it on. Say the truth. Has this happened to you before? You run around the apartment looking for your smartphone, but it's right there in your hand. Well, we all get fooled by our brains sometimes, especially in those moments when we're most focused on a task. This reporter, for example, was so engrossed in his own story that he mistook a mushroom for a microphone. It's simply impossible to look at the surprised face of his interlocutor without laughing. But why would a TV journalist want to hold a mushroom in his hand during an interview? And by the way, what kind of mutant mushroom is that? It's simple. Perspicacious internet users found out that the thing in the hands of the journalist was an old wooden mallet, which is more than 600 years old. Apparently, this is some kind of artifact, which was discussed in the frame. But this certainly doesn't make the video any less hilarious. If you were sent to do a report in a water park, then be prepared for the unexpected. But the correspondent Jenny Mielkowski and her cameraman seem to have underestimated the danger of such a shoot. At the most crucial moment, the journalist and a trainer were covered by a huge wave from the pool. But the funny thing is that the guests of the program managed to escape. How sly and cunning. Nevertheless, Jenny, like a true professional, continued to calmly lead the conversation, even with the microphone not quite working properly and in soaking wet clothes. We're not sure if there is such a superstition among TV journalists, but it's definitely worth introducing. Using an umbrella while shooting is definitely not good. See for yourself how many funny things happen because of it. Not to mention that in this guy's situation, it was not needed at all, and shooting a report right on the shore of a raging sea is not a good idea. But hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube are guaranteed. Not bad after all. Seems that this guy's not the greatest music expert, but we'll tell him to hear the sound of a brass instrument. You don't have to put your head in the horn. Same goes for a microphone. However, that's exactly what the reporter Corey McCloskey did, and for which he immediately paid the price. The device was simply lost inside the sousaphone. And it took a while to get it out. Imagine this. You accidentally broke an item that was insanely important to another person, and there's no way to fix it. So you're already panicking and feeling ashamed, right? That is why we're so embarrassed to watch such videos. You would not wish anyone to be in the place of this negligent presenter. The funny thing is that shortly before this, he got into a similar story. He ruined an attempt to set a Guinness World Record for blowing the world's largest soap bubble. But it's really not that bad. A few weeks after the video with the ice statue went viral on the internet, the TV journalist himself made a frank confession. It turned out the story was staged, and the ice statue, which the master allegedly spent 8 hours on, was actually made in 10 minutes. Apparently, it was the same with the soap bubble too. Well, respect to him for his honesty. But it seems that after this story, the reporter began to be disliked even more than before. Do you remember the recent story about the Myanmar woman who recorded a workout video while a coup d'etat was taking place behind her? There are similar incidents with TV presenters too. After all, they've not yet learned to see through their backs, like in the case of this correspondent who was talking about some important events while a homeless person fell into a garbage can in the background. It's amazing how the cameraman managed not to shake with laughter and drop the camera. Most often, journalists don't suspect what's happening behind their backs while reporting. But this reporter, who was reporting to viewers about a snowstorm in the city of Springfield, came face to face with a huge surprise and gave no sign of it. What kind of self-control could make one not laugh, or at least make a startled exclamation at the completely sudden appearance of a Yeti in the middle of the street? Perhaps the lady has reached real enlightenment. There are always some incidents on set. Either the buttonhole on the suit is sticking out, or the makeup is smudged, or the camera angle is bad. In order to keep track of all of this, there's a whole team of editors, managers and producers behind the scenes. They report important comments to the presenters directly into the ear microphone, and in extreme cases, they're forced to appear directly in the camera lens, like in this video, where the actor Norman Reedus from the TV series The Walking Dead blocked the weather forecast screen with his own body. The assistant director had no choice but to jump out of the booth and push the poor guy out of the frame with his own hands. It's good that the chairs in the studio are on wheels, though. Most TV reporters try to stay cool if, something goes wrong during a report. But Lauren Dubois is not one of them. When a whole stream of dirty water from a nearby puddle fell on her during work, she not only didn't remain silent, but also very emotionally expressed everything she thought directly into the camera lens. And here, it's not even clear what's funnier, the situation itself, or the journalist's reaction to it. A good 8-hour sleep? Nope. Journalists have never heard of this. Morning broadcasts, urgent business trips, being on duty at the scene of important events for a good half of the day. All this doesn't really fit with a measured daily routine. However, a correspondent always has to look cheerful and collected in front of the camera, unless of course she's suddenly brought to a live broadcast at the most inopportune moment. At first, it may seem that the man in this video is trying to attack a fragile girl, but in reality, they're just joking. The beauty in the video is the world-famous model from the Dominican Republic, Clarissa Molina, while the man on the left is a co-host of the program El Gordo y la Flaca, which means the fat man and the skinny woman on American TV. In theory, news anchors of course can't be distracted for a second on air, but in reality, we're not robots. And things happen. For example, something like this. You've got to agree, this journalist's reaction to her own bored face in the frame is absolutely priceless. We're sure that after this embarrassment, the audience began to love her only more. Journalists, of course, need to have a lot of different talents, but we never thought that taming alligators was on that list. However, the host Steve Burton perfectly handled this task when the reptile in his hands suddenly began to do strange somersaults. Maybe the guy was just a former wrestler. As a child, you've probably heard from your mother that it's pointless to be afraid of bugs, because they themselves are afraid of you. Well, that argument doesn't really work, even if we are talking about a strong man who leads a serious report on an important criminal case near a police station. If you think that there's nothing worse than falling in the middle of the city center in front of a lot of passers-by, then just take a look at this poor guy. It seems the end of his impressive sprint was seen by all of America. Well, you can understand the guy. He was in a hurry to go to a cool basketball game, which he covered on TV that day. Another fall. And another equally cool host who didn't attach any importance to the event at all. How do they do it? By the way, if you're now asking yourself where exactly this correspondent managed to fall from, here's an interesting fact. Many journalists carry small ladders with them to report for a better overview or frame. Have you ever just fallen over nothing? Anyway, you can fall even while sitting down as well. This was perfectly demonstrated by the American presenter Ryan Seacrest when he tried to catch a balloon live on his own TV show. It seems that he's not strong in game sports, but he did the tuck very competently. No one likes people who ignore the concept of personal space. Imagine this. You're standing in front of the camera and reporting some important news to your colleagues during a live broadcast, when suddenly a crazy passerby decides to kiss you on the cheek, just like that, because he wanted to. Perhaps only an experienced reporter would not be confused in such a situation, and this was the case. By the way, Rumors later spread on the internet that the guy in the video is the son of the journalist, Don F. and D. However, no one has provided any proof. But if this is really true, then the Joker was clearly waiting for a serious conversation later. Well, to be honest, there's such a pity for this guy that there's no desire to laugh. That's what they call diving into an investigation. It's hard to imagine just how difficult it is to be a morning news anchor. We usually listen to them on TV, desperately trying to wake up while they've been up for hours. And believe me, they want to be in bed as much as you do. There is no doubt, though, the prank from a dear colleague woke this anchor up 100 times better than a cup of even the strongest coffee would. It's a good thing it didn't end up with a heart attack on live TV. Do you hate it too when someone calls you on the phone instead of texting you? And especially if you're really busy. This host clearly agrees with you, but it probably wouldn't hurt to tell him about airplane mode, or at least the cancel button. If you think that keeping a small monkey at home as a pet is a cool idea, then watch this video first and rethink it. The most ironic thing is that the aggressive attack on the host, Kelly Gonzalez, occurred immediately after she called the animals behind her friends. How can you trust anyone after that? Stress tolerance and calmness are the two main qualities of a good news anchor. The connection with a correspondent hasn't been established yet. Find something to entertain the audience with while waiting. Is the prompt not working? Just improvise and off the cuff. Did a shoe fly off your foot during a live broadcast? Well, pretend that that's how it meant to be. It seems that these are some superhumans, really. Has anyone summoned Darth Vader? Yeah. Such a thing happens too. Who knows what that was all about? A bad connection to the studio, or an intern who mistakenly put a strange effect on the sound for production. But it turned out epic. It is completely unclear how a truck with a pile of hay suddenly ended up on a bicycle track. But the driver apparently didn't want the race to end. Otherwise, how did he manage to simply knock down the inflatable finish line with his car? The host is clearly in shock, and so are we. It's a little difficult to get a message across when you're constantly being interrupted. The people, that's why television journalists usually shoot stories in a quiet place, if the circumstances and the subject of the report allow it. But who knew that parrots also don't mind participating in TV programs? One wrong move, and the seams on your pants are treacherously separated. We've all seen this moment in movies, and we're all terribly afraid of it. And now, imagine that such an embarrassment happened to you, not just in the company of friends, but in full view of thousands of TV viewers. Do you feel sick just from thinking about it? Well, learn from this funny guy. He knows how to live even shameful moments with a smile. Life often proves us, don't tempt fate, and you will be happy. But this guy, for some reason, decided to demonstrate to his subscribers how one can run after a car moving on autopilot, and then return to the driver's seat as if nothing had happened. Why'd you need such a skill in real life? Don't ask. In any case, the car clearly had its own plans. During this strange experiment, when a popular martial artist and a single headbutt brick breaker came to this guy's studio, the journalist simply couldn't help but test the material's strength with his own hands. Well, who would have done otherwise in his place? The result seems to have surprised everyone around, including the sensei himself. It's funny that he pretended to be genuinely impressed with the host's abilities. Of course, no one would want to admit being a charlatan right on air. Nothing special, just a huge dog that appeared in a live news release on Russian TV by time. Who let the dog in there remained unknown. But something tells us this was not done without a competent screenwriter of viral videos. Actually, shooting stories, being surrounded by wild animals, is not a good idea. Ostrich.
Big love for watching all the way. If you laughed, nodded, or even blinked, hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and comment your wildest thought. Let's make the comment section a party.